Go. Pow. Hey everybody, this is Robert Hebert and this is nwieducate.com. Today I am with Mr. Erik Tweedy. How you doing, sir? It's a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you for coming. I appreciate you taking this time with me. Today I just want to have a no bullshit kind of a conversation. And I want to talk about key things that are important to everybody, but few people think about. Mm-hmm. We all bitch about it. Excuse my language, everyone. But we're talking about what confidence do we have in our leadership today. And I in no way want to draw party lines because everybody's guilty, in my opinion. The Republicans are just as bad as the Democrats. It's a high school game. When is the last time that any of us have heard anything being done about poverty, infrastructure repair, our educational system reboot, mm-hmm. Medical? When have we ever heard anything about of the people, for the people, by the people? All we've been hearing in the past 12 years is, oh, he's doing this, so we're going to do that to stop him. Oh, he said this, it's got to be a lie.
And we'll get to there eventually. You know?
So where are we with the people? What about us?
I think the government ignores us as a whole.
I agree.
With the way that certain, the way certain people look at it. Mm-hmm. A lot of people, if you have the money in your pocket, then they're going to look towards you more than the people that are living in, like, let's say, Section 8 housing. Mm-hmm. So if you're not within, say, the top 15-20% of people, then you're going to be ignored.
Well, see, that's a really great point, because in today's society, being an I'm an economist by trade, mm-hmm. the gap between rich and poor has never been greater. According to Forbes magazine and The Economist, the gap between in the 1970s, the middle class represented about 73% of Americans. It's a lot of Americans. Mm-hmm. The vast majority represented the middle class, the lower middle and upper middle class. Today, it's less than 24%. The gap is so wide between rich and poor in today's America that it's greater than it is in Russia, and it's greater than it is in Iran. So there's more middle class in Iran and Russia. Now that's the problem, because we're supposed to be a free market. And so it's interesting that you mention that, because that's a key indicator of how the pulse of America is doing, the economy is doing. What kind of a world leader are we? So in a nutshell, on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rate the confidence that you have in not just our president, but all of our leadership as far as our government goes?
Probably a 3.
Well, that's a very honest answer. Mm-hmm. I like that.
Because people say, not getting political or anything, but our current president, his first year or so, 2 years or so, he didn't do anything but slander people. Mm-hmm. Pretty much. Twitter, mm-hmm. Facebook, he's all over the place, and he's not very brilliant. He's not a very by the people kind of person, because he's got a lot of money in his pocket. That's
right. And that's a great. Let's digress for that for a second, because you're a really good point there. How can somebody who's never known anything but a silver spoon, who's never known anything but him, put somebody else ahead of himself if he's never known anything but that? If you've never been, how can you appreciate a stand if you've never scuffed your knees? Exactly. Before you build muscle, you have to tear the tissue. So I don't understand how he can be great for America if he's never known anything but Trump. Everything is about the Trump brand. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm a Republican, and I didn't vote for the guy, and I didn't vote for Hillary either.
I didn't vote at all.
Yeah, I voted, but I voted my conscience, and because I can't stand having to vote for the lesser of two evils. You know what I mean? It's really, we should be able to vote our conscience, but. It's interesting how we do that. So we got a 3 on the scale of our confidence level of the world. As far as let's change gears a little bit and talk about mindset. And mindset is basically, it's one term for how we think. And in terms of an older generation, I'm not elderly, but I'm not, I'm middle age. I'm 48, and I'm thinking, my way of thinking. And when I was growing up, when I was your age, I always felt good about tomorrow, because that was the type of economy that we had. That was the type of, it was about family. It was about all of these key indicators that gave me confidence in a better tomorrow. I went to college to be an economist, ridiculously, because it was a strong economy, and everybody thought that was just a way to go to make money. today I should have became a mechanic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or I should have, in retrospect, because economies come and go. So, in terms of mindset goes, I mean, what's your feelings about the stability of tomorrow? About is there going to be a tomorrow kind of thing? And what do you, if you, in your personal opinion, is this economy, is this day and age, this world arena that we're in now, better than it was when you were growing up?
So I'd have to say no, because I get up in the morning and pardon my language, I work my ass off.
Yes, you do.
And
I know you do. So it's a hard job.
I'm barely making enough money to survive.
Amen.
I'm getting $10 an hour working Monday through Friday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's anywhere from 60 to 120 hours a week.
And it's physical labor.
And outside,
yeah,
building fences all day. It's hard work. I haven't worked in the last 3 weeks. My boss had to put me off because he wasn't making enough money to give me money.
Mm-hmm.
So
now isn't that's people don't look at the small business aspect, and that's such a key indicator. Small businesses used to be the backbone of America, but now the government is with the taxations, they're basically pricing small businesses out of business. Everybody wants a $15 minimum wage, not realizing that all you're doing is increasing the poverty level. You're really solving nothing. But it's interesting how all of those variables aren't even accounted for in America today. What frustrates you the most? I mean, you go to work every day, you bust your butt, you're questioning whether there's a future here. What's the greatest frustration that you face every day?
Probably taxes, if I'm honest. They tax you for this, they tax you for that. There's state tax, land tax, tax on water, tax on food. And I know that before I was born, there wasn't taxes on everything.
Long time before you were born. It was a long time before you were born. But yeah, because there was But
I'm 21. I'll be 22 next February, and at this rate, I'm going to be working till I'm 102 to pay off anything. Solidly working Monday through Friday.
And that's not accounting for any big changes in the economic. If we had a couple of more housing crisis type economies, bounces, because there's still the currency collapse and there's still the debt bubble. We got $20 trillion in American debt. How are we going to pay for that? The IRS takes in about $2.1 trillion a year. That's our main income stream for the government. So the bottom line is that if I had $20,000 in income a month, $20,000 in debt a month, and I only took in $2,000, how long before I'm in bankruptcy? About 1 month, right? Yeah, so it's kind of interesting, to say the least. So how do we see it tomorrow when we know that there are some gloomy times ahead? No matter how strong we feel the economy is, we know that there's still some trials and tribulations that are coming up here.
And I think personally within the next probably 10, 15 years, the economy's going to collapse again. It's going to cave in on itself just like it did way back in the day. It's not, we're not, the economy is not structurally supported by anything anymore.
No, it's a house of cards. You're absolutely right. And I wouldn't give it 10 years. I'd give it more like 6 months to a year. Because you can't support it. It's unsupported. We have the Dow Jones that it's a house of cards. It's really just a bunch of smoke and mirrors. And so I can't agree with you more on that. So the biggest frustration you have is taxes. But what other frustrations does a young man have trying to make it today? Career pathing. Self-betterment. You got so many challenges because 99% of your time goes to just trying to get by. So on top of just trying to get by, how the heck do you try to not only get by, but try to improve yourself to a point where you're at least moving forward? How do you move forward?
I've hit a brick wall, honestly. With
most young people do.
With the way that things are now, I've hit a brick wall. I'm probably not going to get anywhere until I'm 40, 50 years old. Because
and it's tragic you think that way, because there's so many things that are against young people today. No, every American today. It's not really, the age group is almost erroneous, because we're all facing the same struggles. I have a neighbor that had a $4 million retirement. Housing collapse comes. He's working at Walmart. You know what I mean? And it's just really, the frustrations are there for everybody. It's interesting to talk with a young man, because how, if you're so focused, if you have to be, not that you want to be, is you have to be so focused on getting up, working every day just to literally stay stagnant. What do you have to, if that's what it takes just to stay stagnant, just to stay, keep your sucking a little water but not fully going underwater yet, if you have to do that much effort just to stay above water, what kind of effort does it take to get above, not only above the water, but get a boat? You know, from from an analogy standpoint, not physically, but
Right.
how do you move forward if it takes 100% of your effort just to stay treading water?
Well, what I do is, I get up in the morning,
Mhm.
I go to work, and I fight through the struggles and everything. It gives me a purpose in life to beat through this wall that's been put up by society.
Yeah, because it isn't just a physical wall; it's an emotional wall. Because there isn't. I can't tell you how many days I get up. I'm as depressed as crap, because you put in 100% effort. Like I work sometimes 60, 80, 90 hours a week. Yeah, it's not physical labor, but it's 90 hours a week
It's
nonetheless.
still labor.
Yeah, it's mental labor. You can't shut that off. And so when I go in and you're putting all this effort forward, and you say, wow, if this was 20 years ago, I'd be so much further ahead by now. But today, you're putting in twice the effort to receive maybe a third of the return, in terms of anything. So, I have to digress and say, okay, well, what's the plan to move forward? If you're 21, how do you plan on getting a house someday? How do you plan on getting an increase in pay if it takes 100% of your effort to prevent from sucking water?
So,
It's a good question, I think.
yeah, it is. Well, me, I've taken to looking to certain people for help.
Hmm.
For
What kind of help?
Support.
I mean, in terms of mental support, emotional support,
I have
physical support.
I have emotional support, physical support.
Hmm.
I can't do. I know it sounds bad, but I can't do some of the stuff I used to be able to do. I can't lift a lot of heavy stuff because my hip got broke.
Hmm.
I'm 21. That puts me at a severe disadvantage because on my medical paperwork it all says that I'm disabled.
Hmm.
That puts me at physically limited to do any of the things I used to do.
Well, you don't. But it may say that, but knowing you still get up and you still go do a physical job,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's interesting that, because this we hear this message over and over and over again. The younger generation has to work so hard. This is why we have these trends like smaller house living, this tiny house
Mm-hmm.
living. We have all of these different people. They're letting go of the possession type thinking and focusing on the quality of life type thinking. The generations that you come from now are living at home longer because it makes financial sense to live at home longer. It's we're having that almost during the Depression, the way of thinking that they thought then, every dollar matters, whereas my generation was, it's just a dollar. So it's kind of because we grew up during the time of plenty, and now we're getting back into the lean times, and it's interesting that the younger generation is learning that lesson so well. So I mean, interesting to say the least. What do you think the future is? If you were to guess what tomorrow would bring, what would you hope that tomorrow would bring?
I hope that tomorrow would bring a brighter standpoint for those just being born, those being younger than me, younger than you, younger than your viewers.
Yeah.
It gives that if I work hard enough now, hopefully that one day my children will grow up in a society, in an economy where they can be financially stable without having to work as hard as I have to work.
Mm-hmm.
I hope that one day, soon, that the economy can change enough that the people will view the world as what it's supposed to be viewed as, and not what they're viewing it as now.
Yeah, now it's all about quantity. Wouldn't it be great if we're already getting the Depression type thinking, whereas it's about quality versus quantity. We're already getting back in families that are living together longer. wouldn't it be nice if we got back to communities helping each other out? You know, when I grew up in a northern state, and in a country setting where one person had cows, the other person had hay. Well, we traded. You know, nobody really paid anything. We bartered, and we helped them when the fields needed to be harvested. We went out and harvested them because we got all we could eat. You know, that kind of benefit. Wouldn't it be great to get back to that type of philosophy versus sitting there saying, well, I got a cucumber. Either you have $5 for one cucumber or you go hungry. You know, other than go on out helping me harvest and get all the cucumbers you can eat. That, so to speak. You know, it's interesting that we're starting to get there, but we seem to have so much further to go.
Right.
Yeah. Any final thoughts?
I think that us as a whole, as a people, we the people, if we worked hard enough to change the world, the way that people see things, I think that maybe not me, maybe my neighbor, or my neighbor's neighbor, or my neighbor's kids, you know, maybe that one day they can see the way that things used to be seen. That they can learn that the world will only change if we work together as a whole.
That's a great statement. It seems like the problem that we have with that is you, me, and all of the people like us out there think we're told we have a voice. We're told we have a voice, but it seems as though the only thing that's important is, you know, this person said that, so we got to do everything we can to discredit this person, instead of focusing on, well, there's an election next year, we can vote him out or just not, you know, whatever. But instead of focusing on feeding our hungry, our educational, the things that for the people, by the people, of the people. So it just seems like we have less and less control, even though we're supposedly living in a country where we have all of the control. Isn't that interesting?
That's,
to say the least, huh?
there's some mind on that.
Yeah. I want to thank you so much, Eric.
Definitely.
Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your opinion with me. And I hope you generate a lot of questions and viewers can contact us. Thank you, everybody. This is Robert with NWIEducate.com. Talk to you later.